Have you ever had that sinking feeling? The one where you're sitting across from someone who calls themselves your friend, but something inside whispers that their smile isn't real. Maybe you can't put your finger on it. Maybe you laugh at their jokes, not at their encouragement, even thank them for being there. But later, when you're alone, you feel strangely smaller, as if some invisible weight has settled on your shoulders. That unease is not an accident. It's the shadow of a truth most people avoid. Not everyone who stands beside you actually stands with you. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to see how far this conversation is reaching. Now, let's begin. Friendship is supposed to be one of the safest places in the human heart. We expect loyalty, laughter, and mutual growth. But have you noticed how fragile that expectation can be? Life has a way of pulling the mask off people. The ones you thought would cheer your victories sometimes become the ones who dim the lights on them. They don't do it with daggers. They do it with whispers, with jokes that sting, with smiles that conceal more than they reveal. And the most unsettling part, you often don't realize it's happening until the damage has already seeped in. I used to think spotting a fake friend was easy. I imagined betrayal like a storm. Loud, obvious, impossible to miss. But what I discovered is that false friends rarely roar. They erode. They chip away at your confidence one subtle remark at a time. They hide their envy under the cloak of humor. They frame their insecurity as advice. And because they don't strike openly, you begin to second-guess yourself instead of them. Have you been there? That moment when you replay a conversation, wondering if you're too sensitive, wondering if the joke actually cut deeper than it should have. This is where psychology gives us a lens sharper than instinct. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who reshaped how we see the human mind, believed that everyone carries a shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we don't want to face. It's the envy we deny, the insecurity we suppress, the fear we pretend isn't there. And here's the unsettling truth. When people can't confront their own shadow, they project it onto others. They see in you what they can't bear to see in themselves. Think about that for a moment. When a so-called friend constantly reminds you of your failures, are they really talking about you, or about their fear of their own? When they downplay your success, is it about your achievement, or their silent resentment that they aren't moving forward themselves? Jung's insight into projection isn't just an abstract theory. It explains the invisible undercurrent in so many broken friendships. The first unmistakable sign of a false friend is consistent undermining. It rarely comes as direct hostility. No, that would be too easy to notice. Instead, it arrives disguised as concern, wrapped in sarcasm, hidden inside casual remarks. You say you got promoted, and they congratulate you, then add, well, these days lots of people are getting that title. You share a personal dream, and they chuckle, didn't you try something like that before and fail? The words seem small. The tone might even sound light-hearted. But small things repeated enough times carve deep scars. And here's the dangerous part. Because these comments are disguised as humor or advice, you begin to question yourself, not them. You might tell yourself, they're just being honest, or maybe I do need to be more realistic. Slowly, doubt takes root where confidence once lived. That's how undermining works. It doesn't smash the mirror. It fogs it, so you can no longer see your reflection clearly. I'll pause here because this is important. Real friends also critique us. They also call us out. But the difference lies in intent. A true friend's critique is a stepping stone. A false friend's critique is a chain around your ankle. One lifts you higher, the other keeps you small. And the way you feel after an interaction tells you which is which. With real friends, you leave conversations lighter even if they challenged you. With fake friends, you leave questioning your worth, second-guessing your progress, doubting your direction. That feeling is not random. It's data. It's your intuition catching what your mind hasn't named yet. Research in psychology backs this up. Studies on envy and relational aggression show that people threatened by someone else's success often resort to indirect hostility. They can't attack you outright without revealing themselves, so they choose subtle sabotage. A joke here, a dismissive comment there. So over time the pattern emerges. Your joy shrinks when they're around. Let me share a story. Years ago I had a friend who, on the surface, seemed endlessly supportive. He was there at every gathering. He listened to my ideas. He even clapped when I shared something new I was working on. But each time, right after his applause, came a sentence that cut just deep enough. "That's great, but isn't the market too crowded for you to succeed in that?" Or "Good job." Though honestly, it's not that hard to get noticed these days. At first I brushed it off. I thought, maybe he's just trying to keep me grounded. But months later I realized that every interaction left me feeling smaller than when it began. That's when I recognized it. It wasn't friendship, it was disguised competition. Have you ever experienced something like that? Where a friend's words seemed supportive on the surface, but drained you underneath? Think about how that made you feel. Did you leave encouraged? Or did you leave second-guessing yourself? That's the test. Your body often knows before your mind catches up, and here's the real tragedy. We often excuse these patterns because we don't want to believe them. We don't want to think someone we call a friend could secretly resent us. So we rationalize. We laugh it off. We tell ourselves we're overthinking, but ignoring those subtle signs only gives them more room to grow. And the longer it goes unchecked, the more damage it does. To your confidence, to your trust, to your sense of worth. The shadow is powerful because it hides. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That applies to friendships too. Until you bring these patterns into the light, they will direct your emotions and you will call it just the way it is. But it isn't fate. It's a choice. The moment you name undermining for what it is, you reclaim your clarity. You stop being at its mercy. Let's pause here. Think about someone in your life right now. When you share good news, how do they respond? Do their words truly build you up, or do they leave you with that faint aftertaste of doubt? Do they shine with you, or do they quietly dim your light? Your answer to that question may reveal more than you think. Now, this isn't about becoming cynical or distrusting everyone. Not at all. It's about discernment. Because here's the truth. Life is too short to spend it with people who celebrate your failures more than your victories. The first sign of a fake friend isn't in grand betrayal. It's in the tiny cracks, the disguised critiques, the smiles that carry envy behind them. And if you can learn to notice those signs early, you save yourself from years of invisible erosion. The more I've reflected on this, the more I realize that recognizing false friends isn't just about protecting yourself. It's also about honoring real friendship. When you know what undermining feels like, you can cherish even more the rare people who do the opposite. The ones who cheer with you so loudly you can't help but smile wider. The ones who challenge you in ways that expand, not shrink. Genuine friends are not afraid of your growth, because your light doesn't dim theirs. It makes it shine brighter too. So let me leave you with this thought for now. If every time you rise, someone close to you finds a way to shrink that rise, maybe it's not about you being too ambitious or too sensitive. Maybe it's about them not confronting their own shadow. And you don't have to carry the weight of someone else's unacknowledged darkness. You only have to recognize it. Because once you do, you're free. And this brings us to the second truth, the other side of the coin. If undermining reveals itself in your successes, the second sign of a fake friend reveals itself in your struggles. That moment when life tests you, when the lights dim and the road gets rough, do they stand with you or do they disappear? That's where we're heading in the next chapter. Because it's one thing to be subtly undermined when you're on top. It's another to be abandoned when you're at the bottom. Together, these two signs form the clearest picture of false friendship. But for now, sit with this. Think back on your own life. Who has clapped with you without conditions? Who has raised your name in rooms you weren't in? And who, on the other hand, has chipped away at your confidence under the disguise of humor or advice? The answers to those questions may change the way you see your friendships forever. There's a moment in life that no one forgets. The night the phone went silent. The day your world tilted. The week everything you thought was secure suddenly collapsed. In those moments, when your heart aches, when your strength falters, when you're not sure how to take the next step, you discover the truth about the people around you. Because pain has a way of burning through illusions. And when the fire comes, masks slip. If the first sign of a false friend is hidden in the way they react to your victories, the second is revealed in the way they respond to your valleys. Celebration is easy. Loyalty and hardship is not. Think about the last time life tested you. Did everyone you thought would be there show up? Or did some fade into the background, their excuses louder than their presence? That sting you felt, the quiet betrayal of absence, is one of the clearest markers of false friendship. Let's not sugarcoat it. Real friends are not required to be perfect. They can't attend every dinner, answer every call, or solve every problem. But when your life caves in, their instinct is to draw closer, not retreat. A fake friend, on the other hand, seems to vanish precisely when your need is greatest. They have time when the road is smooth, when there's laughter to share or benefits to enjoy. But when the storm comes, they're gone. And you're left staring at the silence, wondering if the friendship was ever real. Why does this absence cut so deeply? Because true friendship is built on presence. Not perfect presence, not constant presence, but reliable presence. The knowledge that when your world shakes, someone will still stand beside you. Psychology calls this perceived social support, and research shows it's one of the strongest predictors of resilience. Simply knowing that someone has your back makes hardship lighter, which means the opposite is also true. Realizing someone you trusted disappears in your pain makes hardship heavier than it already is. I'll pause here. Have you ever been in that place? Expecting a friend's call, waiting for their knock on the door, and instead receiving nothing but silence? That silence is louder than words. It doesn't just say, "I'm not here right now." It says, "Your pain is not my priority." Jung believed that suffering reveals authenticity. Hardship strips away the polished surface of relationships and exposes the motives underneath. When everything's fine, it's easy to pretend. When everything collapses, people show who they are. And sometimes what's revealed is that the friendship was built not on loyalty but on convenience. Let me share a story. A woman once told me about a friend she'd known since childhood. They laughed through school days, celebrated birthdays, stood in each other's weddings. But when she lost her father suddenly, that friend didn't call. Not once. Months passed and still nothing. Later, when asked why, the friend said, "I didn't know what to say." Think about that. Decades of memories, years of shared laughter, and when it mattered most, silence. That friendship never recovered. Because presence isn't about having the perfect words. It's about showing up anyway, even in silence, even when awkward. Real friends know that your pain is bigger than their discomfort. Absence in moments of suffering reveals something profound. It exposes whether the friendship was built on genuine care or on the comfort of good times. It shows whether your value to them was in who you are or what you provide. And though the realization is painful, it's also liberating. Because once you know who disappears when you fall, you know who you can truly trust when you rise again. But why do fake friends vanish in hardship? Sometimes it's fear. Your struggle mirrors their own hidden wounds, and instead of facing those shadows, they retreat. Sometimes it's envy. Your hardship threatens to strip away the image they held of you, and they don't want to confront it. Sometimes it's plain self-interest. They were in the friendship for the good times, the benefits, the comfort, not the weight of your tears. Whatever the reason, their absence is telling. It speaks the truth they could never say aloud. Let's pause again. I want you to picture the people in your life right now. Who texts you back when you're quiet for days? Who knocks on your door when you don't answer your phone? Who sits with you, not just in joy, but in silence, in grief, in confusion? Those people. Those are the friends you never let go of. Everyone else, their absence has already spoken. There's a deep irony here. Fake friends are often the loudest in easy times. They post the pictures, laugh at the parties, tell you how much you mean to them when the sun is shining. But when the storm arrives, their silence is deafening. And in that silence, you learn the truth. I remember a season of my own life where everything seemed to fall apart at once. Finances crumbled, health faltered, a relationship ended, and in those nights when I couldn't sleep, I waited for certain people to call. People who had once sworn, "I'm always here for you." The phone never rang. Days passed. Weeks passed, nothing. But you know what did happen? People I least expected stepped forward. Quiet friends, distant acquaintances, even strangers who became family. It taught me something I will never forget. Sometimes the ones you count on most count on you the least, and sometimes the people you never expected become the ones who carry you. This is the paradox of hardship. It doesn't just strip away false friendships. It also reveals hidden treasures. But to see those treasures clearly, you must first name the absence of the ones who failed you. You must face the sting of silence and accept what it means. So let me ask you again, when life pressed on you, who disappeared? Did they return later, when things smoothed out as if nothing happened? That's another sign. A false friend often reappears when the hard part is over, when the benefits return, when the laughter comes back. They want the ease of friendship without the cost. They want the image of loyalty without the sacrifice of it. And once you recognize that pattern, you can no longer unsee it. There's a wisdom in allowing absence to teach you. It may hurt, but it clarifies. You begin to invest your time differently. You stop wasting energy, chasing the presence of people who don't value you. You start building deeper connections with those who do. Jung was right. By making the unconscious conscious, by naming the patterns, you reclaim your freedom. Think of it this way. If undermining is the shadow that haunts your moments of success, absence is the shadow that haunts your moments of struggle. One chips away when you rise. The other abandons you when you fall. Together they form the portrait of a false friend. And once you see it, you can never confuse surface-level friendliness with real loyalty again. But here's where it turns hopeful. Once you've faced the reality of who disappears, you can turn your focus to who remains. And that, my friend, is where the miracle of true friendship shines brightest. Because the ones who stay and the ones who call, who show up, who sit with you in your darkest nights, those are the people worth your loyalty, your energy, your love. Their presence is proof that real friendship is not a myth. It's rare, but it's real. So if you've been abandoned in your hardest season, let me say this. Their absence was not your fault. It was their revelation. Their silence was their confession. You are not unworthy of support. You simply gave the title of friend to someone who did not deserve it. And now you have the clarity to choose differently. Pause here and think. Who in your life right now deserves that sacred space called friendship? Who has proven, not with words but with presence, that they are willing to stand in both sunshine and storm? Write their names down. Reach out to them. Tell them you value them. Because true friends don't just happen. They are cultivated. They are cherished. Life is too precious to waste on shadows. Surround yourself with those who carry light. And remember, when someone consistently undermines your growth or abandons you in your need, they have already shown you who they are. Believe them. Protect your heart and invest instead in the rare, beautiful souls who make your victories brighter and your burdens lighter. Because in the end, friendship isn't about who laughs with you when the wine is flowing. It's about who stands with you when your hands are empty. So let me leave you with this final reflection. When you think about the word friend, who comes to mind? If their presence in your life feels like strength, like clarity, like peace, hold on to them. If their presence feels like doubt, like erosion, like absence, let them go. You owe it to yourself to walk with those who don't just wear the mask of friendship, but embody its heart.